Good evening. I would like to call to order the March 30th, 2011 meeting of the Milton School Committee. Please rise and join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask you all to join me in a moment of silence. The Milton Public Schools lost a very valuable member of our community this past week, Mr. Peter Shibley, who has been a custodian and worked in almost every school in the district, passed away suddenly. And he and his family have resided in Milton their entire lives. Could you please join me in a moment of silence in his memory? Thank you very much. We have a few agenda changes this evening. We are going to delete the Finance Subcommittee report, and also under executive session, it should read pending litigation, not possible litigation. Does anyone else have any edits or corrections to the agenda? Hearing none, we'll accept that as written. Do we have anyone for Citizen Speak? We have a special group for Citizen Speak. I'd like to invite the tri-chairs or co-chairs of the Celebration for Education Backyard Bash to join us, please. And Tom Flynn, who is running the raffle. We're so glad you're here. We need a drum roll.
Thanking us for allowing us to come back. My name is Astrid Hajar. Patty and Tom and I were all trustees of the Milton Foundation for Education, and we're here to promote the biggest fundraiser in the town and also one of the biggest fundraisers in the South Shore, which is Celebration for Education. The event is called this year the Big Backyard Bash, or like Patty likes to call it, the BBB. And we're very excited about the event. The response of the town, the parents, the staff, the people all over town has been fantastic. The theme this year is more casual, and the big question that everybody's asking is what to wear. So we're inviting everybody to be comfortable, wear jeans, dressy jeans, and a nice shirt. We are honoring two wonderful Milton High alumni, Ann Coughlin, who was one of the founders of the Milton Foundation for Education, and wonderful lady, and also Gary Kelly, who's also a Milton High alumni, and he's very much involved with many activities around town. I'm sure all of you know him. I have a big announcement to make. We are close to sellout. We have an attendance of approximately 800 people, close to 800 people. We are extending our ticket sales until Friday at, I don't know what time.
Noon.
Noon on Friday. Yes, until Friday noon. Thank you.
Great.
If you would like to purchase tickets, this is the time to do it before we sell out. You can go to miltonfoundationforeducation.org and you can purchase your ticket. So be sure to do it before we sell out. Thank you for your support, and now.
On Lisa Viola's behalf, as she has a wonderful live auction committee that includes Denise Quayle and Mary Jane Walker. They have come up with 14 amazing live auction items, and we wanted to share those with everyone in Milton so that you can get excited about the evening. The first is a Newport Golf getaway, then a White House and Capitol tour with Stephen Lynch, a South African photo safari for two, a Jackson Hole getaway, a week in Ireland, generously donated by Dennis and Mary Cohane, a wine tasting for 8 to 10 people led by Keith Mills, your own backyard bash, which is a catered for 25 people, Texas barbecue, a local Milton band called Paragon Park, and also some alcohol provided. Red Sox tickets, original Red Sox seats from the right side field, and an unbelievable package with Rich Hill, a Milton High alumni, a Red Sox player, at TJO Sports in Canton. He will come for 1 hour for 10 to 12 children, show them pitching techniques, and sign items and have photographs taken. A backyard patio, 16 by 16 Petco patio donated by Town Tree, and that will actually be in the ballroom at the Boston Quincy Marriott for everyone to view the actual 16 by 16 patio. 4 hours of rental time at the Copeland Field House for 30 of your closest friends to do either basketball or any sort of activities, volleyball, dodgeball, and a backyard makeover worth $3,000 donated by Eagle Farms. And last but not least is a trolley tour, or I think it's a party van at this point, for 10 to 15 adults to hit all of Milton's restaurants and Dorchester restaurants. So that should be a great evening. Exactly, yes.
Nice that we have them.
About the silent auction? You wanna say
The silent auction, we have had an unbelievable support from the teachers. Classroom parents have donated gifts, and just local businesses. We have 250 silent auction items, which is amazing. The silent auction has gone to print this evening at the Pierce Middle School, and it will be available online at miltonfoundationforeducation.org for people to preview, because there are so many items. You want to take a look and see what items you're going to go after, but we have some really great stuff. And Tom?
I couldn't even start to do better than that, so I'm not going to. My name is Tom Flynn, and I am coordinating the raffle ticket sales, and we have an extraordinary raffle that we're doing. Red Sox tickets, opening day, April 8th, Red Sox versus Yankees. They're in the right field section of Fenway Park. One-night hotel stay at the Taj Hotel, which formerly was the Ritz-Carlton, a limo ride into the game, and a bottle of champagne. I would like to thank everybody for their extraordinary efforts on selling the tickets. We do have some left that are still available. We will be selling them tomorrow night and Friday night at Milton High School, and we also will have a limited supply available on Saturday night at the Big Backyard Bash. So give you a bit of advice, make sure you bring your checkbook and plenty of cash, because we have a lot of items that we're going to spend and raise a lot of money for the Milton schools.
And the
Thank you.
logo on 93 South?
We're going to talk about, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you've had a chance to see the logo of our event. It's on the big screen on the Carpenters Union's building on 93 South, and it's very exciting to see that big sign with your logo right there on the highway. So that's thanks to Tom.
And
So
are you going to talk about the bull riding?
no, we're not talking
okay.
about that. Not yet.
The one last thing that I didn't mention that hasn't been publicized, but people will also need to bring money night of, is Grano and Christie has donated a $1,000 gift certificate to be used for any piece of jewelry in their store, and there will be 50 tickets sold the night of the event for $50. So just be sure you have plenty of cash on hand.
I just want to say, I want to thank the following businesses in Milton that have agreed to sell raffle tickets: Cakes, Salon Mateo, Belvisage, Esprit Divin, and Body Benefits have graciously been selling raffle tickets at their location. So thank them very much.
And thank you for your time.
Thank
Before
you.
you leave, I don't think that anywhere in the world there are any parents like the parents and community members in Milton. And this presentation is just a sampling of the work that you have put into this celebration. And I have to tell you, the anticipation is so high. People, I don't think they've ever been as excited about a celebration or an event. And on behalf of the schools, I want to thank you. You stand up on behalf of the hundreds of people who are making this night a huge success. And you have done it with ease and grace. And on behalf of the children and all the teachers, I think you know the teachers are absolutely thrilled, appreciative, and I think it's trickling down to the students too. So on behalf of the schools, a huge thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It has
Thank you.
been our
Thanks for your
pleasure.
time.
Patty and Tom, thanks so much.
Thank you.
They make it look so easy, don't they?
A lot of hard work.
They're probably not sleeping, but. Ms. Gormley, we'll turn the meeting over to you for your report,
Thank you, Chairman
please.
Sheridan. First, I'd like to invite to the table our PS Middle School Site Council. Maybe right over at this round table, and James can do the introductions. Welcome. If you'd introduce your members, James.
Good evening. With me this evening is one of our site council members, Brian Wadman, and to make sure that we had additional support, we have along with us Amy Gale. A couple of our site council members had a conflict in schedule and could not make it this evening, and so we do apologize for that, but we're still ready to present our presentation. And I'm sorry.
Down at the bottom there. There you go.
And for those who don't know Amy, while
That's
the
it.
show is being put up, would you want to introduce Amy in case
Sure.
somebody wasn't viewing during her math presentation?
For those who don't know, Amy Gale is our new curriculum coordinator for math, English, geography / history. Brian Wadman is our new ELL teacher. He also works at the high school. He works with our English language learners. Both of them are new to the Pierce, and they are definitely assets and welcome additions to the Pierce faculty and staff.
And I should have, James, I called up the site council for the viewing public. This is our extraordinary Pierce Middle School principal, James Judd.
Thank you very much, Mary. Our first slide in assisting us this evening is John Phelan, Assistant Superintendent. Thank you. Our site council members, just so you know, and we could give them recognition, is Ella Wells, who has 3 children in the Pierce Middle School, 2 in grade 7 and 1 in grade 8. Lisa Viola, she has a 6th grade student at the Pierce Middle School, parent, and obviously Brian Wadman. Mary Shapiro, who is our grade 8 math instructor, and also Ann Murphy, who is a former Pierce teacher, who is now a community member, and she's still plugging hard, working at math and tutoring some of our students, and she's helping us out. And again, myself on the site council. Our first slide, and please forgive me, I'm going to try to use it on paper so I'm not. Our first slide just gives you an overall history of the Pierce Middle School's AYP history. As you can see, moving across the screen from left to right, from 2003 on to 2010, Pierce Middle School really had a struggle. If you drop down, we always made it in the aggregate, I should say that, right up front. We made it in the aggregate, meaning all of the students that attended Pierce overall did exceptionally well. Unfortunately, we had some challenges in some of our subgroups. For those that don't know, the subgroups are students of color, African American, and also students low income, identified as low income, or students on IEP special education. We've had our challenges. We think that students are making significant progress, but according to the standards set by the states and the AYP, we missed the mark for a couple of years here. If you look all the way to the right under the No Child Left Behind accountability status, we're in year restructuring year 2. I need to preface that by saying if we made the mark in every single category this year, the aggregate in all subgroups, we would have still had that label because you need to have 2 consecutive years making the mark in every single category. That's the aggregate in the subgroup. If you look under the ELA, our aggregate for 2010, we made it. We did not make it for ELA, and we'll talk about that on the next slide, under our subgroups. And that subgroup was students of color, African-American students, and we'll talk about that when we go to the next slide. What I'm most proud about, if you look down to the math, in our aggregate, we made it overall. And then in our subgroups, for the first time, our special ed subgroup has made the mark set by the AYP standards in terms of our student growth. So we're pleased to say that the PS is making significant progress. If you look to the next sheet, and if you look under category B, the second column, did the student group meet or exceed the state performance target? If you look at our actual, under actual, that tells you what we actually scored. Then if you go over to the category C under improvement, if you scroll down, you'll see that we made it in the aggregate. We missed it, we made it, in ELA in our special education. We made it in low income. We did not make it students of color. If you look to the right of that, we missed that by .3. .3. Now, at the end of the summer, the state forwards us the preliminary information, and they ask the principals, guidance staff, anyone working in the schools to kind of look at the data for any discrepancies. What are the things that we identified? I have all the confidence in the world if we were working on this a little bit earlier and had an opportunity to really lobby to the state. We had 19 students that missed 5 of the last questions. 19 students that missed 5 of the last questions. 9 of those students were students of color, and out of the 9 students, we had 6 students of color that did exceptionally well, not only on the MCAS in previous years, but also academically throughout the year. Now, when
I'm sorry.
excuse me.
Mrs. Murphy's here. Maybe she'd join you at the table.
Miss Murphy, what a loyal person. She said, I am going to watch on TV, and if you go up and I can make it, I'm going to make it. So I would like to give Miss Murphy a round of applause. Thank you. Yeah. So I do want to emphasize that .3 could be indicative of maybe 1 or 2 students missing 1 or 2 questions. That's a small percentage that we missed it by. My hope is this year we get over that hurdle in every single category, the aggregate and each subgroup. If you look down at the bottom, and I know it's always been a concern with us, some of our special ed students trying to get to that hurdle and get over it. If you look down, we made it in the aggregate under column C, and we made it in special ed, but I want you to look to the right. Look at the increase in terms of the improvement, 6 point, yeah. That is a significant improvement from where our students were last year. Now, each year, the state has a trajectory where we're supposed to go by 2014, where every student is supposed to be proficient in advanced. And so this year was somewhat of a plateau year, and I hope that our students continue to grow. And we'll talk about some of the initiatives that we've been working on at the Pierce to continue that progress, that upward and onward motion. We also made it in low income, and we made it with students of color. So again, I want to go back to that first slide where we missed it, that one category, and put emphasis on it. I really think, in our heart of our hearts, I was able to look at the staff on the first day of school, and I said, listen, I know we made it. Unfortunately, we didn't make it according to the state, but we just needed to pay a little extra attention to that. Amy, if you want to talk about the growth model.
Sure. Something that's new this year in the reporting of the MCAS is that all the students, in addition to their score, raw score, in the MCAS is also being given an SGP, or student growth percentile. And this slide details for you how the SGP is determined. MCAS shows how the students are achieving relative to state standards. So is the child learning the state standards that are being taught in the classroom? But growth really measures them against their peers and how they grow from year to year, because the 6th grade test is very different from the 7th grade test. So students are placed in a cohort based on their score history, so that you can see how they grow from year to year. Each student's rate of change is compared to other students with a similar test score history, and then that rate of change is expressed as a percentile. So if Sam scored higher than 65% of the other children in his cohort, he would have a student growth percentile of 65. And the next 2 slides actually show you how the Pierce did in terms of our SGP. So this is for English language arts, and you'll notice the X in the center, that represents the statewide median SGP of 50. Typical growth is between an SGP of 40 and 60. Most of our kids are really clustered around that typical growth. Obviously, we'd like to move them up toward that top right-hand corner, higher growth, higher achievement. But you'll notice that all of our dots are above the X, meaning that we've got really nice high achievement, and we're moving in the direction of high growth as well. And if you look at the next slide for math, we have a real bright spot here, which is our grade 8 math. which the SGP, the median SGP for grade 8 math was 67, which is above average growth. Anything from 60 to 80 is above average growth. 80 to 100 is atypical excellent growth. So I think that's a real bright spot in terms of the Pierce Middle School.
And if I could just add, when we're referring to academic peers, say for instance, I scored 224 on my MCAS test in ELA. What the state does is they take every child across the Commonwealth that scores a 224 on their test, and then they compare you to that cohort. That's what they mean by the academic peers, and then they measure how much growth you made according to those the students in that. The next slide.
So this shows some of our strengths, areas of strengths and weaknesses on our 2010 MCAS. In terms of, you'll notice the strength side on the left is a little bit larger than the weaknesses side, which is always nice to see. I'm not going to read through every single one of them for you, but what's interesting is that patterns, relations, and functions is a real strength for the students coming in from the elementary in grade 6, yet when you move to grade 7, it became an area of challenge. That's something that we hope the new math changes will help to address, sort of carrying through some of that pre-algebraic thinking from 6th through 8th grade. Data collection was an area of strength across the board for grades 7 and 8, which is excellent. And an area of weakness that we've seen in the past historically has been computation and number sense, and you'll notice that that popped up as grade 8 strength this year, which was wonderful. And if you look at the note on the bottom, grades 6 and 8 were on average 11% above the state in terms of how they were scoring, and that was really on par with other high-performing suburbs, so that was nice to see. When we looked at the concerns from 2009, grades 7 and 8 did a really good job addressing those concerns, which was nice to see as well. And again, the median student growth percentiles are down below. We have grade 6, 51.5, grade 7 at 48, and that highlight with grade 8 at 67. The following slide is going to show you the ELA. Our strengths across the board were definitely in the area of reading, understanding text, concept development, different types of text. There's a lot of nonfiction reading on the text, classical literature, myth, traditional narrative, which you'll see in grade 8. One weakness across the board was open response, which spurred our open response initiative this year, where our English and history teachers were both working on creating open response questions in their classrooms and working with a graphic organizer that they created and that was approved by the state. Grade 6 poetry had in the past, in 2008 and 2009, been a weak spot for us. And through the interventions in 2009, it really became a highlight for us last year, and there had been a number of professional development opportunities for teachers around poetry, as well as some student interventions that were done in the classroom. An interesting point is also the grade 7 writing prompt. That's the long composition in grade 7. It was lower than we had expected across the board. However, it was a relative strength for our warning students. So even if a student was in warning, one of the places they did the best was on the long composition, which really shows that the initiatives that the teachers are carrying forth in the classroom are reaching all students, which was wonderful to see. We scored very high in terms of conventions and grammar on the long composition, but topic development was something that we were really just even with the state on, so that was something that the teachers worked a great deal with this year. You'll see the median SGP at the bottom. 6th grade was 55, 7th grade was 50, and 8th grade was 51.5.
So the next page, when you start talking about action steps, when we came back collectively as a staff in late August, the first couple of days, we had an opportunity to talk to the staff a little bit about some of the preliminary information that we had gotten. And then during our curriculum meetings with Amy Gale, Marilyn Decker, and also during our professional development day and throughout the year, we start looking at what do we think that we could do differently, but also what can we do that we're doing well, how can we make that a little bit better. And so when we start talking about that, we just got this, last year we piloted the Study Island, and we had a significant number of students who were really working at it on their own pace. Study Island is an online math program that the teachers could really kind of devise different lesson plans or identify key concepts that the students could work on at their own pace. Some kids did it over the summer, some kids continue to do it. Amy Gale monitors that. We just acknowledged some students who actually continue to work at it at their own pace. And I think we had one student at one point, 4,000 problems with close to 90% accuracy at one point in time. And so what we try to do is acknowledge those students in the cafeteria in front of their peers in hopes that more and more kids will get on it and continue to do it. We really feel that repetition is something good, which is nice for Brian to be here because we have a limited piece of that license for ELA on Study Island, and what we do is our students in special education and ELL have access to that. And if you want to elaborate on what you do with the students in ELL.
So I have 14 ELL students throughout both the middle and the high school, and in addition to helping them to acclimate to America and their adjustment, we also try to help them to get up to the standards of English. So Study Island's been a great resource for us to been able to help them to know what the guidelines are, what's expected of them, and then to give them additional time at home and other resources at the library. So it's been a great resource for us, and I continue to hopefully use it with our high school students. And I've been very thankful to have some great administrators supporting me throughout the year.
And if we could continue with some of the action steps, we continue with our math investigation. Yes.
Could I just ask you to clarify, we're using terminology that people might not know. So when you talk about ELL, we're talking about English language learners.
Yes.
Yes.
English language learners, students who come to the country and have limited background with English. They'll first become part of my program, and what I do is I help them become acclimated, and it builds camaraderie amongst the other students to know that they're not alone. They have other students who are in the same boat as them. So that's one of the things I do. And we also try to get them up to the standards. The average span, although it hasn't been totally documented, but it's between 3 and 4 years before they get back into the mainstream. So my job is to try to help them get there as fast as possible, but without making them feel uncomfortable at a safe time.
And if I could just add one piece, if I could digress for a little bit, Brian's being a little modest. One of the things that I really liked about Brian is making a connection with the students. The vast majority of the students are Haitian descent, and over the vacation on his own money, he actually traveled to Haiti and actually took pictures of former schools and things like that the kids actually attended. And that says a lot. It speaks volumes. That's not something, obviously, we asked him to do. We don't have the money for him to do that. But I just think in terms of making a connection and making kids feel welcome into the school, especially when you have a language barrier in some cases. And I just thought that, I think that was a nice piece and a nice gesture on his part. He brought back pictures which showed evidence of his trip.
Wasn't for being on the beach and vacation, I'll tell you.
Thank you.
We'll continue with the math investigations. If you remember, a short period of time ago, the Warrant Committee was very gracious at giving us additional funding to support us in previous years with the math investigations. We feel as though that's something that's still strong and going, giving our students extra support, extra time in math, done in a more hands-on fashion. We have the inclusion model, the special ed inclusion model at all 3 grade levels, where we had content-specific teachers and special education teachers with content-specific. So a special education teacher with a math background goes into regular ed math and works with the students. So more and more students who are on IEPs are definitely part of the mainstream. They're definitely exposed to the on-level curriculum, and we feel as though that's something that's helping our scores increase. We also working with John Phelan because we know that we continue to need support in that area. Our teachers are craving it. They want it, and Mary Gormley, Superintendent Mary Gormley, and John Phelan, Assistant Superintendent, are committed to giving us that. We're very lucky to have Steve Shapiro from Pinnacle Learning working with our students on Saturdays. He's given about 27, 28 of our grade 6 students who really had some difficulty with math, free of charge every Saturday. And quite frankly, those kids are there every Saturday working hard, and it's kind of mixed with a little bit of basketball. It's not your typical roll out the ball and let's play, but it's also instructional basketball. The kids are enjoying it, and I think it's been a great experience for us. We have the Milton Saturday program that just started up. Erin Power, the director of that, just started that up. We're in the 4th week. The program ends on April 9th, the Saturday. But we have students, our 7th grade students are participating in that on a Saturday. We have the before and after school help, summer math packets that Amy Gill is working with the teachers on that the kids will have throughout the summer in addition to math and, study island, and then a summer read as we've done in the past with a little more focus. But I would ask Ann Murphy to talk a little bit about the work she's done as a long-term sub at the Pierce Middle School, but also supplementing some work in grade 6 math.
I started out this fall doing a long-term sub in the 6th grade. I was there for 8 weeks. And I was a 7th grade teacher. I knew the 7th grade material. I knew the 7th grade book. It's the first time, and I knew the 6th grade book, but I never really used it to look at it. Well, when I was looking at it with the above level students in particular, the book, in 7th grade, I should backtrack. In 7th grade, we skip a book completely for the above level kids. They go from the 6th grade book to the 8th grade book. The 7th grade book, we don't touch at all. The on-level kids use that book. And so looking at the 6th grade book, the questions dealt with the material on a very low-level question. The question might be, I bought 5 pencils at 70 cents each. How much did the pencils cost? That was a 6th grade question. They did the multiplication. We were good. 7th grade book, however, had, like I had $5. I bought this, I bought that. Did I have enough money? How much change? Whatever. Including sales tax and things. So what I did, I met with the 6th grade teachers and Amy and decided to take the 7th grade book and use it in the 6th grade with the above level kids, incorporating both books. So taking the stuff in that book that is in the 6th grade book, but with a higher level of thinking. So we started doing that with the above level kids. It really worked out well. The kids, I kept telling them, I'm treating them like a 7th grader now, and they kept saying, this is good, this is good. So it really worked. We moved it down to the on-level classes, not to the same extent, but they're doing the same thing with the harder, more expectations. And it's working, right? The 6th grade teachers love it because they knew the kids weren't being challenged enough. So this is the beginning. So I think I was supposed to be in the long-term sub for a reason, so I could see the 6th and 7th. So the kids are happy with it. They like it. They really do. So we're moving up.
One of the things that we're constantly trying to do is align our instruction with teachers' key understandings. And so in the curriculum meetings, which are bi-weekly, we plan on aligning lesson objectives, common assessments, and student products with grade level standards, as well as the new Common Core standards. And Massachusetts has just put out in March, the beginning of March, their version of the new Common Core standards. So we're in the process right now of overlapping the past standards with the new Common Core standards to make sure that our curriculum is in line with those. We are utilizing vertical alignment to see how standards and strands develop across grade levels. We've had a number of math department meetings as well as English department meetings so that teachers at different grade levels can see how one skill progresses from one grade to the next. And I think what all of this has done is really increase the level of rigor in all grade levels. And especially, as Ann was saying, in grade 6 and 7, which really support the new math initiative. And I agree, Ann was placed there for a reason because that's what got this whole ball rolling in grade 6. The next slide continues the action steps.
Before you move on, can I just ask you again, I'm sorry if I keep doing this, but if you could just explain what vertical alignment is to people who aren't educators.
Vertical alignment is when teachers at different grade levels meet and they look at how a specific skill might transfer from 6th grade to 7th grade to 8th grade. So if we're looking at something like rational numbers or fractions, 6th graders might be identifying common fractions, equivalent fractions. They might be adding and subtracting fractions, beginning to multiply and divide, looking at negative fractions on a number line. Then 7th grade, they might begin to do operations with negative fractions, and it would begin to progress as they move on from there. So it's really looking at how a skill or strand develops from one grade to the next. Thank you. We've also had ongoing instructional support for our teachers. One of the big things that we've been working on a lot this year has been supporting the use of higher order thinking models. We've been working with Costa's levels of questioning, where children really spend some time thinking about what are basic comprehension questions, what are questions that require them to think a little bit more, and then what are questions that really move them beyond the text that they're reading. So we like to think about it, questions that are in the book, questions that require your brain and the book, and then questions that just require your brain. And that's been working really well, especially with our history teachers this year. And this has been part of the plan for our department and curriculum meetings. We've had the open response initiative and training, which has happened in department meetings, but then also in individual teachers' classrooms. We've been supporting an initiative for writing across the curriculum. We had a workshop in writing and math classrooms. We've implemented 2 new writing activities in grade 7 and 8 history this year as well. And there's also been quite a great deal of looking at how different types of technology can support math instruction, looking at the smart notebook tools. We've been looking at a new free program called GeoGebra, which is really making some of the links between the algebra and the geometry. And those are some of the instructional supports that the teachers have been working on in curriculum meetings.
And if we talk about the data, we continue to look at it. We continue to look at not only the MCAS, but Amy and Marilyn Decker, who's the science director, coordinator, they're looking at the data across all 3 grades, comparing it, trying to identify strengths and weaknesses. Common assessments are implemented so we could try to identify areas of weaknesses or areas of strengths in advance before the actual MCAS test. I know Amy Gill is currently working with Holly Concanon at the elementary level. They're looking at the data of the current 5th grade, so we're preparing for them as they come to the middle school next year. So that's going to be ongoing, because as you can imagine, with a different cohort each year, the target changes, areas of strengths and weakness vary from grade to grade. And so we're really looking at that, but we're really pleased with the new student growth model, because it gives us, it gives us information on how that particular student is progressing compared to his previous year or his or her previous year, coupled with that against the academic peers throughout the state. And then when we talk about connecting the families, if you look at the bottom of the slide, we just highlighted some, and you'll see in the very end, we have a wide variety of different ways that we encourage parents to come out and connect the peers, from anything from individual phone calls to literacy nights to independent reading guides. We have some of our teachers to invite parents in to come in and do reading with the students. Right now, Louisa McCarthy is doing an initiative where men read. Is that what it's called? Men
Guys
read?
read.
Guys read, excuse me. And basically, she's kind of taking photo shots of different men in the building that are working and identifying, having them put up posters, because the research shows that young boys at this age are not reading as much as their female peers. And so our goal is to get that going a little bit more, and that's an initiative that Louisa McCarthy, who has been a gem for us even on a part-time level, is really making strides with our students, particularly in the area of the library, and also working in collaboration with some of our teachers. And we continue with our new student initiatives. That's always the toughest. You have students that move in, whether it be in 6th grade, 7th to the 8th grade. We get a large number of new students each year. But we had a potluck dinner, I believe it was in January, inviting those parents to come out. We do a new student and families to the town of Milton in August before the school year starts. For those who come in before the start of the school year, we make personal phone calls to those families to get them to come out. And so that trend will continue. And hopefully we have some more events that parents will find appealing and engaging. The next two slides are pretty much student engagement and parent engagement. And what we try to do is highlight some of the great things that we think that are happening in Pierce. And trust me, there's a lot more that could go on that teachers are doing on an individual basis, but we highlighted a few. And the reason why I did that is sometimes, although I think it's very important, and we had assemblies on March 21st with all 3 grades, and we talked to the students about the importance of doing well, and I would encourage any parents out there that are watching, despite how you feel about the MCAS, your opinions on it, it's still a very important assessment tool, not only for your individuals, but your child is judged on it, their teachers, the administrators, the school, the district, and the town. And when I met with the students again on the 21st, I continue to ask them how many have that conversation with their parents. We understand that the information or the charts that they give you could be overwhelming. We encourage you, if you have any questions, to please come in, take advantage of the guidance counselors. They could help you walk through that, but we think it's important that parents also have the conversations with the students, and the best way that you could do it is getting the students in on time. We got a lot of smiling faces the last couple of days. Karen DeLuca with the new poster making machine that we had that the MFE graciously funded for us. We got a new sign letting parents know when their kids are late. It's neon orange. We want kids in school on time. But the parents actually got a good kick out of it today. You'd be surprised at how many parents want their kids to do well, but need that support and the guidance to let them know specifically what they can do to be supportive. So again, when we talk about student engagement, if you look at those top 5 listings there, we have well over 60% of our kids in the performance arts. That includes band, chorus, strings, Pierce players, ACE. We have another 25% or so of the kids involved in after-school clubs or activities. It's hard to get a true indication on that because on any given day, the library could be full, and that's something that rotates. I can tell you right now, when the weather breaks, that number may dwindle down a little bit, but the reality is that we have kids coming in the building on a consistent basis, and if you stop at the Pierce at 7 o'clock, and I encourage someone to do that, kids are coming in the building at 7 o'clock, 7:15 to work with teachers to get extra help. I know we're sitting here as a small group, but I want to extend that to the Pierce faculty and staff, who I have to say has to be the most committed bunch of educators that I've worked around or know. They're here and they want their kids to succeed. And so I don't want to bore you with listing all of these. They're there, but anything from honor roll breakfast to the 280 Club, for those that don't know, we have a luncheon recognizing kids during the school day. We order food from outside with the help of the PTO to recognize kids who get a 280. It's not a perfect score, but that's the highest scale score you could get on the MCAS. And I believe we had, and I'm going to say it, and the name escapes me right now, we had one student, I believe, that got a perfect score in both.
Yeah, Michaela Olson.
Yes.
Michaela Olson.
Thank you. In the day that we had it, I think she was going away to Florida, I believe. I do remember that because I was jealous. But we hosted our first annual robotics club here with David Romeo. We had our first mock trial, the kids at Quincy District Court, with the assistance of Honorable Judge Baylor, who sat and presided over the case, with Deb Tracy, the attorney from Hingham, and her husband was a great help as well. So we had a lot of great things going on, and we're going to continue to push forward. Our next big initiative coming up is the Pierce Community Global Celebration. That was our former Diversity International Night. We encourage parents and families to come out. We have entertainment, we have vendors, we have student work on display, we have an initiative where we could collect used instruments that parents no longer have use for in their families, and we're going to donate them to schools in Haiti. So look for the flyer. That should be coming out next week. We have our next meeting on the 4th at 4 o'clock. So there's a lot of great things that are happening at the Pierce Middle School. And so we appreciate the support from the community, from the school committee, and definitely from central office. And that pretty much sums it up. If you go to the next slide, the parent engagement, it gives you a list of some of the things that we did for the parents. We opened up the building the first Monday that the staff returns that evening at 6 o'clock for our incoming sixth graders, for their parents to ask any last-minute questions. We go over what the first 2 days would look like, hopefully to help ease their anxiety about that. We're a firm believer, if you're nervous and anxious, that's going to make your kids nervous and anxious. But I have to say, over the course of the last couple of years with the Welcome to Middle School, our kids, the Welcome to Middle School camp, which is a one-week camp, 8 to 1, 1 week in June, 1 week in August, the kids are coming in more and more prepared. We used to hold them for an entire day. Now we're only holding them for about 2 periods or 3 periods, and the kids are venturing off. So it's overwhelming for the parents, but for the kids, they get into that routine very, very quickly. So I just put that out there as a couple. We talked a little bit about the literacy night. We have the library project on there, Guys Read. We had John Halligan in the fall. We have the MOC program, which is the Center for Aggression Reduction. They're going to come in on April 5th and work with our female students around cyberbullying and bully initiatives. So again, we're trying to work on the whole child, not just academics, but making sure students are being good citizens and being respectful for one another as well. So that in itself concludes, unless you have any questions for us.
I think that's just an amazing presentation. I want to thank you and not only your site council members, but also your staff and your faculty. That's an amazing list of parent and student engagements. The progress that you've made is really outstanding that you're making with children. And I love the way what you said at the end, that you really are trying to address the whole child, not just the academic portion of it. You're reaching out to the families and before school and after school, and it's so important. So thank you. Anyone else? Yep.
Just one question. This year, we've been doing a series of professional developments at my school for teachers, and the biggest question they're asking us about for next year is, especially in math, what is it that I'm going to be teaching in the math frameworks next year in my grade that I wasn't teaching this year? Are you getting those starting to get those questions too? How is my life going to change under the new frameworks?
Yes, a lot. On the DOE's website, and you probably, Mr. Pavlicek, have seen this, they have something called the crosswalk, and what it does is it lays out for you the current standards, and right next to that what the Common Core standards looks like, and then what the actual change is. So in grade 6, we were looking at something today about ratios, and it said this is equivalent to grade 7 standard from last year, so that the teachers can really see exactly what's coming up, but also what's not there. So they're saying, oh, so much is getting added, but then when you really go and take it apart, there are some things, measurement and data, they're not doing as much of that in grade 6 anymore. But the crosswalk is a wonderful resource, and it's on the DOE's website.
Mrs. Kelly?
Thank you. Just to follow up on that. So it's the Common Core is being implemented next year, or districts are asked to start preparing? Because flipping a switch to the point that you that says, oh, you used to do this, now you're going to have to not only learn but also know how to teach and reach children. It just doesn't seem to make sense that it doesn't seem to me that it's great planning on their part. But is that the way it's being executed?
It's actually a 3-year rollout, so we just went to a training for this a few weeks ago, Martha Sherman, Holly Concannon, and myself, and basically next year is the familiarization period. So we'll be spending all next year doing exactly what you were saying. What's new? The following year will be partial implementation, and then 13-14 will be the year that the full implementation and assessments will take place.
Great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wonderful presentation. Community members at home watching this should be so proud of their middle school.
Next, I'd like to invite to join us at the table Bill Ritchie, our Director of Facilities, and Matt Gillis, our School Business Administrator, on our facilities, annual facilities update. And this will be the first time the viewing public gets to see, and the school committee, congratulate Bill Ritchie, who has been appointed the town's new administrator of our Consolidated Facilities Department.
Well deserved, Bill. Thank you.
I'm just hoping Bill returns my calls now. Just kidding.
Well, we said if Bill, my remark was that I guarantee them, Bill knows every inch of every building in the Milton Public Schools, and I guaranteed them, Bill, within a short time, you'll know every inch of every town building, and be an outstanding advocate for the facilities in the town.
Bill and I talked about this, and just for a change of pace, we're going to do things the old-fashioned way. We gave the school committee a handout. It'll be online tomorrow. And we're just going to actually talk to you without a PowerPoint, since you get a lot of those. We figured we'd give it a rest, and you can let us know afterwards if we should never do that again, or occasionally just talk to you without a PowerPoint. I'm going to talk about the first couple of things, and then Bill's going to take over from there. Our reduction in energy consumption is really a good news story, and I would say probably the largest team effort of the whole system combined. All the employees, the staff, the students, and the facilities subcommittee, two of which are school committee members, Dennis Cohane and Linda Lee Sheridan, and we have some citizens in town, Rick Malmstrom, John Kibbe, Joe Murphy, and did I miss anybody, Bill? And Bill and I. And in short, all of the schools have a reduction in their electricity consumption from last year to this year in actual kilowatt hours, except for Pierce. But Pierce had the summer program, summer school this year, as well as other summer programs. Every few years, we're going to rotate summer school probably around a little bit, so we can get in a good deep cleaning in the high school, because when the building's running 11, almost 12 months a year, it's hard to do a really good job stripping the floors and waxing them and getting everything ready for the year. But the Tucker School and the high school, the two Energy Star recipients, actually saw the greatest decrease in their consumption. And we've made steady progress at Glover, Cunningham, and Collicott. And Pierce, if it didn't have the summer school program, also would have been a negative reduction. And the district total is 6.8%, which is really pretty good without any help from outside consultants. And the natural gas consumption is kind of tough to really take a look at even 3/4 of the way through the year, because it's just a little more than half of the heating season that's up at the point the snapshot's taken. We're still down a total 0.7%, and the buildings haven't really changed. None of them are old to the point where windows are cracking and we've got heat leaking out the roofs and doors. The envelope's still tight, so largely we've gotten probably what we're going to get out of. What we can do for that in controlling our costs with the programmable thermostats and rollbacks, and when we have the buildings open and when we have them closed. So energy-wise, we're having a good year, and if we continue to do so, that puts a little money left at the end of the facilities budget, hopefully to sink back into facilities and maybe some other areas. One of the first areas for where we'd like to see some of that money is roof restoration projects. At the Glover, the Pierce, and the Tucker, those schools got renovated, but there were sections of roof that were new enough at the time of construction where they were still under warranty that we didn't replace them, because it seemed, especially when you're working with a tight budget, which the building committee was, trying to make sure everything came in under budget, to remove something that was still under warranty and in good working condition at the time. But those times have changed. We have 3 sections of roof that are not under warranty. 2 of them are in good shape for restoration, 1 not so much. We think we can do those projects in-house. Have some experience with this with a previous employer. we could put the coating on and get up to a 10-year warranty, and we could do that work in-house, because it's like tricky painting. It's not that complicated of work. And you've seen the buildings. They have, in most cases, the hallways in many of the classrooms have been painted since they've been open. It's just part of everyday maintenance and upkeep, so doing it on the rooftop, which would be like painting a floor with stuff that's a lot more durable than paint, is really just a matter of practicing the craft. And we think we could do that at about 60% cheaper than what an outside consultant estimates if we had to bid the project out. Because we would save the money on the labor hours, and the overhead markup for procuring the products, and then the overhead and profit for the contractor to bid out the work and pay his employees, and they're not in this not to make money. So that's about it with the roof restorations. There'll be more details online, but at this point I'll turn it over to Bill to talk about some of our other projects and ongoing initiatives.
Yeah, and before I go, does anybody have any questions about the roofs? I mean, I have a lot to talk about. I figure we want to get them out now.
Mr. Gomez?
I just wanted to clarify, we're patching roofs versus replacing them, right? Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't really be a patch. It would be like a wall-to-wall sealant. So if you're thinking of paint and you're standing in a room at home, if you're going to paint the wall, you paint the wall from corner to corner. And if you do that with this product, they'll give you a warranty for that section of roof. So it's not like a patch that you can see. It's a whole new coating. And in this case, all the roofs we'd be doing are black rubber. And they call it EPDM roofs. It's like a thin car or bicycle tire. We'd be putting a white coating over it. The first coating, you can still see the black. The second coating, you can't see the black. The manufacturer knows pretty quickly when you've did it to their specifications, and they can walk through and give you the warranty, and you don't necessarily have to pay the architect to bid out the plans, and it'll extend the life of your roof. And largely, if we extend it another 10 years, if it's a 10-year warranty, we might get 12 years out of it. That might be a time when we're ready to start replacing the whole roofs on a building like Glover that'll be 20-plus years old. So trying to put everything back into alignment for down the road, as well as when you don't have a whole lot of money to fix things, you make the best decision you can with what you have.
Can I answer your question? I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great idea
Right.
in basically patching it and extending it out 10 or 12 years, and then just replacing the whole thing in 10 or 12 years.
Yeah, and I think our goal with this manufacturer too is that we're going to do, we get a 5-year warranty, then after 5 years, we do some more maintenance to it and get another 5 years to achieve the 10 years. But, you know, at that point, it's going to be really minimal maintenance for one of our custodians or maintenance guys to go up there. And this company is willing to train our people in-house to do this coating, to actually give us the warranty. So I think it's great for, that we can actually save some money, give some, some of the guys some extra experience, some on-the-job training. I mean,
I think you should be commended for coming up with that idea. It's very innovative and something I'll actually bring to my business as well. I've learned.
Nobody likes roofs that leak, especially in the classrooms. Doesn't take long for Bill to get phone calls.
yeah, the next part of the plan here, we're talking about the exterior duct insulation projects. Matt and I presented to the capital committee last month. We have a 4-page of capital projects, but because it was so lengthy and detailed, they actually picked our 2 biggest projects. One was the roofing, but since we're trying to do the roofing in-house, we thought all the ductwork insulation. We had the building committee. We did all these new schools, and they put on. We had a lot of exterior ducts with all the ventilation shaft. The product they used was an okay project. Was not the best at the time. Some value engineering you try to do. We did so much construction. If you looked at today, if we were to do these Milton schools over today, it'd be about $300 million. So we did them for 150. So the building committee, that's hats off to them for, they really stretched that dollar to the point. But we do have a few issues. I bought my little box of all the products here. I think it's always good to show people what we have and where we're going. This is the product that we have on exterior insulation. It's you have your metal, all your metal ductwork. They put the insulation in a coating. Their coating happens to be black. Unfortunately, the coating has to be maintained every single year. I'd have to hire 3 maintenance guys every summer to go up and coat all the ductwork, which would just be not a real practical thing. Would cost it's too cost prohibitive. So, and another thing too, with all our New England weather, snow loads, when we see this past winter with 3 or 4 feet of snow, it crushes the insulation. When you crush insulation, the coating cracks, water gets behind it, so it kind of fills pretty quickly. The coating today that we want to use, and actually the building committee gave us some money, and we did the exterior ductwork on the auditorium. It's a new type of coating, and and it's like you can't crush it. I could actually stand on this, and it has another. The finish on it is a really high-tech finish, which is guaranteed anywhere from 10 to 15 years. This is really probably 5 years, and we've been schools, almost 9 years. Some of schools 6 years. So we went to the capital committee. I did a little dog and pony show. Here's what we have, and here's where we want to go. We have about $438,000 worth of work that needs to be done in the next couple of years. And that really addresses most of all the critical areas. Hopefully this summer, when we train some more maintenance guys, we might be able to save some of the stuff by putting a coat on it if the stuff wasn't really damaged, kind of coating. So that's where we're at. I mean, with this, it's just, like I said, you try to stretch the dollar. It's you can buy a Pinto to get down the street, or you can buy a Cadillac. The Pinto will get you there, but it's a better product. Any questions about this? Pretty self-explanatory, I guess. The next big subject we're going to talk about is summer cleaning and in the building maintenance over the summer. Obviously each spring we start to prepare how we're going to clean all the schools. We decide is summer school going to be at Pierce back at the high school. This year it's going to be back at the high school. I gave all the notes of we actually go through over the summer. People don't realize we use roughly about 1,200 gallons of wax. That's a lot of wax, and that's about in the hallways about 6 coats, in the classrooms anywhere from 4 to 5. Everything's stripped, everything gets pulled out, all the chairs get repaired, shades get repaired. We try to do as much painting as we can in the general areas. It's just there's just too many square. Obviously I could hire 2 full-time painters and they could just keep cycling it. But that's we strip everything and we clean all the carpets. We try to paint all the handrails, all the elevators get inspected. The Copeland Fieldhouse gets screened and waxed. So we just do an enormous amount of work, and it really takes us the whole 2 months. The schedule this year, the custodians at the high school have decided, because we have summer school, that they'll go to an off-shift schedule. They'll work roughly from 1 o'clock to 9 o'clock, so they can accommodate the summer school. The Pierce and the Collycott and Cunningham will work their regular day shifts. They'll work a little later at Collycott because they have the after-school program or the summer school program that goes up to 6 o'clock. And Tucker and Glover will kind of work together as a team cleaning, so they can get out early and we can kind of turn the lights off. So we do a lot of juggling, and every year we go like this, but it all gets done. Because 2 months is a lot of stuff to clean. The maintenance schedule, we do over the summer schedule. We do all our testing, but we kind of routinely do it. One of the things I actually put in the report I did not include, I'm sorry about that, is that if you look at I have a sheet here. These are all the things that we do over the summertime. It's we change all the belts, all the filters. We're going to be doing coatings on the roof. Elevators get inspected, fire alarms get inspected. All the generally we do enormous behind-the-scene work so we can open the buildings up. All the buildings get inspected by the town building inspector, the fire department. So there's 1,000 different things. So I do, have a little report here if anybody wanted to look at all the different things that we do. And we do it, a lot of the things too are done on a routine basis. They're done monthly, quarterly, but in the summertime is our big bang for the buck when we have to get everything done. So that's what we do so on the maintenance. And then Matt and I are on another committee called the Green Communities Committee. And it's a town-wide, the town was just designated last year, I believe. They got their green stamp that And the town so far this year, over the last couple of years, has reduced energy up, I believe it's about 28%, which is enormous. That's an enormous chunk. And we're going to try to reduce it by another 6% by 2013. And Bill Clark, he was, I kind of work closely with Bill Clark, and a lot of the town buildings, they put together a plan of some of the energy upgrades, and me representing the school department, I put together 2 plans. One was for changing out a lot of lighting at the Pierce, and Jim Egan has identified by doing some recommissioning that a lot of the heating units at the Collycock Cunningham during the wintertime, they always stay on. So we're running a lot of motors. Jim thinks that he can kind of retrofit them for like $6,000 so that when the heat goes off, the motor goes off, so we'll save energy. So we applied for the grant. I believe the town was awarded $175,000, so I can maybe get $42,000 of that to do all my upgrades.
Bill, just to interrupt for 1 second, so Jim Egan is our HVAC.
Yes, heating, ventilation check mechanic. Jim does a lot more than just heating, ventilation. He helps us on our wiring, and he does a lot of troubleshooting for me. And some of the other things that Matt and I are working on in our facility subcommittee is that we're going to be doing a retrofit program. This is, and if you ever looked at our auditoriums, our high school auditorium, as high-tech it is, it's wicked high-tech. There's 27 different types of light bulbs. But this light bulb right here is a 120-watt light bulb. There's about 75 of them. And it's 120 watts. It's about $4 to buy, $4 or $5 to buy it. It has 2,500 hours. We're going to be going to a new high-tech light bulb. I mean, I really like this stuff. This stuff really, this is my wife thinks I'm kind of too crazy about this stuff, but whatever, But this is a new type of light bulb. This is an LED light bulb. It costs about $55 to buy. There's a program right now that I can get it for $10 on an energy grant. It's 50,000 hours, and it reduces. It goes from 120 watts down to like 19 or 18. And it's so focused that you really, Matt and I looked. We did a sample today. You really can't tell the difference. It's very minimal. So the payback for us is about 3 months. I can change all these light bulbs out. In 10 more years, I won't have to borrow. It takes about 10 years before this light bulb would die, and we'll save over the life.
We start saving in month 4.
Yeah, I did.
For the next 10 years.
I believe my little cheat sheet here. I can't remember all these different numbers. It's roughly about $1,000 we'll save over the life of this light bulb. So these are great things. So we're going to do it at the middle school. Next week on Tuesday, I have an energy audit. They have to certify that my information is correct before they give me $40 a light bulb. But we're going to do it here at Pierce. So that's some of the things that we're working on, and I think in the next couple of years, you're going to see this is going to really start flooding the market. So I want to take full advantage of it. And now at my new town job, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of these light bulbs in town. Because it's great money. It's a no-brainer. 4 months, you can save a lot of money.
Bill, can people at home buy those light bulbs for $10?
No, you can actually, I was at Lowe's the other night. Lowe's has the same light bulb. This is a Sylvania. Lowe's has a GE product. I believe this is about $45. But you have to really look at the box because this is 50,000 hours. Theirs is 40,000. Yeah, it's 40. So so this costs a little bit more money, and the energy grant will give me $40 off on that light fixture. So for us, it's a no-brainer. It really is a no-brainer. So there's some of the things we're looking at.
This is one of Bill Ritchie and Matt Gillis's strengths.
Oh,
finding energy savers.
Yeah, but this helps up. It's easy. It's a great thing to do, and we're really high tech. This is great stuff. So that's pretty much really it. That's anybody any questions?
Great job.
I would just like to say that we have 2 community members that you mentioned on our committee, John Kibbe and Rick Malmstrom, who really, I sit on that committee, but I'm there to learn, and they're there really to, the amount of sharing that they do. We'll sit in a room, and John's looking around saying, well, we could do something over here, and working with these 2 gentlemen, it's an amazing process, and I think that we're just scraping the surface. I think that you're just going to keep finding ways for us to do this, and I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure to work with you.
And I think the message should be, these schools were done, and to me, it's like they were done yesterday, but Bill addressed issues that were value engineered, that have to be seen to, and 4,000 customers, 500 adults in these buildings every day, that when we discuss this presentation, I think that the material was powerful, that our capital needs started the day we finished the buildings. And so that's another one of Bill, Richie, and Matt Gillis' strengths. They have a plan going out with their short and long-term needs and their lobbies for, if we're going to maintain these schools so that they look like new, it's going to take funds, maintenance, and facility and capital funds. So that was really the message when we discussed this presentation, that the needs are still there, even though the community sees the outside of the shiny buildings. We have a huge responsibility to maintain them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Bill and Matt.
Thank you, Kate, yep. Good luck. Yep.
Next, I'd like to invite to the table John Phelan and our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Personnel, who chaired a committee on school choice, researching the topic of school choice. And with John tonight is one of his parent members, Meg Kasuba. And John will tell you the other members who served. You were given the presentation. Meg, welcome, Meg. Parent, substitute school nurse, and you wear many hats within the community. And John, I want to thank you for working with this committee. School committee member Kristen Bagley Jones is ill tonight, but she served as a member of the committee. And I said that you would share who the committee members were, and welcome. Thank you for all the work you put into this presentation. And it's a very timely presentation, because I would bring out of the local newspapers every other week articles on this topic for John Phelan and his committee.
First of all, I'd like to thank Meg Kasuba for being here tonight. She's a member of the School Choice Committee that we formed in December of the school year. We have a presentation tonight. This group met several times in December and January to explore the charge of would it be feasible or a good idea for the Milton Public Schools to take part in school choice. The school choice program is a state law that schools can opt into, and they have to vote on it as a school committee body each year. Okay. The group got together to entertain this task in, as Superintendent Gormley said, to get the group ready before we have the formal presentation. We did research some articles. I went on the DOE website and the Massachusetts.gov website to download everything that we can look at and read in terms of the law and the Department of Ed's expectations and rules regarding school choice. Originally, school choice was offered statewide in 1991 by Governor Weld to hopefully allow districts to have competition between them and allow students to enter districts in an attempt to provide choice to students who may live in districts that may not have a strong school. If you can go to, and I apologize, we'll catch you up in the slides. First of all, on page 4 of the slide, we have the committee that was requested to be formed was made up of myself, John Phelan, the Assistant Superintendent, Kristen Bagley Jones, who was on the school committee, Brian Board, high school teacher here at Milton High, Barbara Perry, school nurse at the Pierce Middle School, Meg Kasuba, parent at just the high school now. Used to be middle school and high school, now it's just the high school, former Tucker parent, and Ann Ellen Leiden, who is a Pierce parent and also a Cunningham parent. Just so we can be really clear, we have a policy that is in the book, the school committee policy, that regulates our introducing or having students enter the Milton Public Schools. We have a technical difficulty, so we'll just stay with this 1 second. Hold on. That's okay, no worries. Here it comes.
John's usually the face that no one sees behind the presentations that always work.
There
There we go.
Must be one of Bill's funny light bulbs that just wasn't working quite well yet. Now it's kicking in, and now it'll be save us energy, but be super focused at the same time. All right, so we'll go over it real quick so the public can see what we were talking about. School Choice is a statewide program started in 1991 by Governor Weld to give students a chance to go across their town and/or city borders to access higher performing schools if their schools, in fact, were performing well. Each year, every school committee in the Commonwealth has to vote on whether or not they want to participate in school choice. And at the request of Member Hubin, he wanted some more detail as to why we're making this decision not to participate over the last few years. And it's our attempt to provide some general information to you as the voting group at the school committee, but also to the town in general. As we had listed earlier, these are the folks that we have on the school committee, the School Choice Committee. And we had met several times, and these folks did actually a lot of homework over one period. We had about 8 packets of information that they went through and asked questions about, and we held several meetings to talk about and analyze that data. The next slide, I won't read to you, but this is our policy. This is the school committee policy on students entering school. And it outlines what age you have to be to enter kindergarten, that you have to live in the town to go to school, and that if the Milton Public Schools would like to enter the school choice program, there needs to be a vote taken to do so. This is also the policy that we have, that we lean on again around our residency of students who attend the schools as well. So that's our general school committee policy. All right, so just a general outline of what is and how does school choice work. If we wanted to participate, or if a district wanted to participate in school choice, they would have to have a vote of their school committee, and they would have to identify themselves to the state through their paperwork in the portal as a school choice district. We would determine as a district how many seats we would like to offer. We could offer 5 at the 3rd grade level. We could offer 100 at the 10th grade level. You can offer as many seats and at whatever grade levels you would like to. That's the school system's choice in what they offer. The selection process that you receive students by has to be free of any and all discrimination. You can't choose the kids that you want to come to the school in the school choice program. Once a student is enrolled, say we wanted to take 100 students and we took 100 and we decided to participate next year, those 100 students at whatever grade we took them at, maybe 20 at grade 1, 20 at grade 2, 20 at grade 6, etc., no matter if we wanted to participate or not the following year, those 100 students would have to finish all the way through their 12th grade year. We would be obligated to them for their entire public school career, which is all the way through 12th grade and graduation at the high school. So just because we choose to stop the program, if we didn't think it was worth our while in year 1 or 2, we would own the children all the way through their 12th grade year that have already started the program. As part of the process, we would be required to meet all the reporting requirements by the state, timelines around student participation and how we offer the program, the data for students, and also the amount of money that we need to be reimbursed for at the end of each year. The school committee can vote to discontinue the participation. However, as stated above, we must honor every student through the 12th grade. Does anybody have any questions about how the process works? That's a very quick overview. This information is taken right from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education website. They provide some great resources for parents. A lot of good parent information is on the DESE website. That's the Department of Education, Elementary and Secondary Education. And there's a lot of good school information on the Massachusetts Law, massachusetts.gov website that kind of gives the school system a little bit of information around what are some of the policies and expectations that they have. So does anybody have any questions about how you get in and how it works? Mary?
Just, it's clear that we're obligated to take care of these students through grade 12. What about the transportation component of that? Is there any obligation on our part for transportation?
No, there is not. It's up to the parents to get the students there. The district can if they would like to, but there's no obligation to.
And to Mr. Phelan's point, we all learned a lot through John and the committee's research that we didn't really know about school choice. So I think the public is interested in school choice. As I said, there are articles in the local papers about school choice in other communities. So we'll be putting this presentation on the web and the links that Mr. Phelan referred to.
Would you like this to read this next slide?
Okay.
Can I-
Sure.
How do you pick the kids?
It's a great question. Once you identify yourself to the state would put you on their website as a school choice district. They have, families would find you on the website, and they would call the school and register as a school choice student. Again, you would already have set how many students you would take at each grade. So hypothetically, if we were going to take 10 students in 3rd grade, 10 students in 6th grade, and 10 students in 11th grade, we would put that information on the DESE website for school choice. Parents would then be reviewing what schools are participating, and they would contact you. You would have to have a form set up. You would have to have someone ready to receive that information, give that information to the public, take the applications in. The problem also becomes, what if there's too many students who would like school choice? And if we had 13 students who would like to be in grade 3, but we only had 10 seats, we would then have to have a lottery. And they actually use the word lottery in the DESE process for districts to follow. So in essence, we would just pick the names out of a hat, and we would have those children start. There is no, they are very adamant that there is no picking and choosing. So if I had a friend from Hanover who I'd like to have come in, I couldn't give them the wink and the nod to say, I'll get you in, don't worry about it. It would have to be free of any discrimination of any kind.
I was just going to say that's a really good question and a really good answer, and I think if you could add a slide in detailing that, that would be helpful for the public as they're viewing it.
Okay.
So, if I can ask one more.
Sure.
So to avoid the wink and a nod,
Yeah.
is it a public process when you pick them?
I would absolutely have a public process.
Yeah.
As we have done last year in our grade 1, I would do it in a very public place with people around to make sure that people felt it was transparent.
Mrs. Kelly?
Could Milton decide what the deadline was for putting in your application or whatever the process is?
Yes, we could.
Okay,
The
so-
state has a range of time that you would do that process in.
Okay.
And if someone, for example, we only had 9 people who were wanting to come over to Milton, and we had 1 seat left over, you would have to leave that seat open and fill it throughout the year. So, for example, if you left that seat open and because you only had 9 students, and you had grade 3 as your grade, and then students moved into town and filled up that grade, that seat has to remain open. So you could actually end up having to take a student midway through the year, and now all of a sudden you'd be in a situation where you might have more folks than you planned on taking for that school year.
Wow. Mr. Cohen?
So, I'm not totally clear yet. So, say you had 10 spaces open. Where do the names come from? Is it from the state they come from?
No, they would contact us directly. These are for parents who are interested in school choice in general. Go to the website to the state, and they look at all the schools in their area that might be offering school choice. Once they see Milton on that, they would call Milton Public Schools, Sean Walsh or Charlene Roach or someone that we put in place would answer the phone and say, yes, we are a school choice school. Here is the form you need to fill out. And then we would have them come in and we would have them register as a school choice student.
So you'd have to know about school choice before you could actually...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we'd have to have someone dedicated to receive those calls. We'd have to set up a process by which we would take in those students, keep track of how many were coming in at each grade, know when we were over the limit, and we would start. That would be our registration process for kindergarten and actually from grades 1 through 12 is very smooth right now, but we would have to create one that would overlap that process as well.
Mrs. Kelly?
Do we have any Milton residents that participate in school choice?
No, we don't. And that's a great question. You don't have to be, students in Milton can go to any school they like right now, not any school, any town that has school choice, and we do not have any that leave the district to go to other towns. You don't have to be a receiving district to allow students to go out to other districts.
Can I ask one more? So, do more towns become school choice or not school choice?
We'll answer those as we go through. I have a nice map that I will show you that kind of gives you a snapshot of the state.
Okay.
Right now, there are more towns that do not do school choice. We looked at data that was evident over the last 3 years that the state offers, and it was probably about 60-40. It certainly wasn't overwhelmingly schools or districts that don't participate. But it's interesting, the geographic area in which schools or districts don't participate is right around the Boston area. The majority of our schools that participate, and actually you might as well put it up if you want to shrink that whole presentation for a minute. That is a map of every city and town or district in the state. And if you notice, the darker greens are school choice districts that have a higher number of students participating and receiving. And the lighter greens offer just a few student seats, and the white spaces offer no school choice. And if you notice around the Boston metropolitan area, very few districts participate at all. A, because they have a dense population and they have high enrollment in their schools. And B, according to some of the articles that I've read, is that school systems are struggling enough with the student, funding the schools with the students that they have, and they are not anxious to take students in from other districts surrounding them. That's in general, but that will be more expressed in the presentation. But I thought that was a nice visual to give you a representation of the state. So,
I always found that very interesting.
And it's also, I apologize, Meg, there's a lot of districts that tried for a couple of years and then back out. So there's some of the data that they give you in terms of districts that have participated. They'll have asterisks that said for 2 years or for 1 year. I think once they got into it, I can't assume why they decided to drop out, but maybe they did it for the financial gain of 1 year, but were not able to sustain any more in the ensuing years. But we haven't dug down into the data as deeply as that.
I think the other thing that we noticed looking at those trends too, a lot of the districts that did offer school choice had a declining enrollment in their own town. So the concerns of our committee were many. We had a lot of homework that we did, but we really had to kind of focus on a few things that just would let us know, is this feasible for the Milton School? So we really looked at the financial impact, the impact of special education students, and our enrollment.
So just so the public knows, the first question, we decided to put this in question answer form because I think that that's a great way for people to understand information and present information. Districts who are receiving districts, for every student that they receive that live outside the district or that is a school choice student, the district would receive a $5,000 allotment on their cherry sheet, which means the state will reimburse you $5,000 per student. Interestingly, for the fiscal year 2010, the per pupil costs incurred by the Milton Public Schools is $11,788 per student. So we felt right away that that was just in simple math, and I know it's a little more complicated than that, and I believe comments to some questions earlier regarding fixed costs and some things. If you have an empty classroom and you already have a teacher there, adding 3 students may be beneficial, and that money is all in excess that you would be getting in anyways. We still felt that that was a heavy discrepancy between what we were putting out for our students currently in real dollars and what we would get in return.
It's also interesting, you said it goes through the Cherry Street sheet
I addressed
process.
that later on,
okay,
yeah.
Sorry.
I think that's
but that to me is a huge...
Yeah. The second question that we put up is there a different per pupil cost for students on IEPs? And the reason why we bring this up is I believe the average student in an IEP with minimal services is probably around $15,000 to $17,000 per student. We have students that also go out of district that may cost anywhere up to $80,000 to $150,000. So that kind of concern, I think, initially had some folks in the committee, and was an obvious question, well, what's our liability or what would be our responsibility to those students? In the answer on the DESE website, and Mr. Gillis could help me explain it, essentially, the district would pay up to a certain point, and we would use the circuit breaker formula to offset the rest of the costs. I think it would depend on the services that this child is getting. I think it would depend on the amount of money that we're paying our teachers versus the average state cost of a teacher that they use to determine what that cost would be. And it definitely was not something that we felt was an even match dollar for dollar. And I also got concerned with some of the language around if a student was identified after they came to us. I didn't get a real full answer as to what would happen with that child. So if a child came in without an IEP, or a minimal IEP even, and then it was determined that they might need to be an out-of-district placement, where would that cost fit in, and what would be the responsibility of the district? I think there are mechanisms in place, but I didn't quite get the exact answer that I wanted in reading all the information. So to be fair, it raised its head as a concern, but I couldn't say that we would have to pay full cost, but there was a question as to what the district's liability would be. Question number 3. Just answered it. Would the Milton Public Schools have to pay more for special education students? Maybe. It really depends on several variables. One very clear variable would be they use an average cost of teacher salary. Is that average cost the same as ours? And back to the previous slide, they mentioned the circuit breaker as also a formula that they would try to equate the funding. Remember, our circuit breaker money, or the circuit breaker percentage, went from almost 70% 2 years ago down to almost 40%. So if that's used in any way as a way in which the money is calculated, that would be a concern to the district as well. All right, question number 4. Are there any restrictions as to how the district can expend the revenue generated from the school choice participation? And this is the exact quote out of the DESE website. The first part says the intent is to have it spent on those materials and supplies and expenses directly related to school choice students. However, it does go down further in the paragraph to say you can also use it for general expenses. I would like to think that when they say intent, that doesn't mean that there's a real fast rule that you have to spend it on the things above and beyond, or what they call the out-of-pocket expenses of having school choice. But there is an expectation that you would be expending those funds on school choice expenses that are above and beyond your budget. I would think in reality that might not be as tightly analyzed or kept track of at the state level. But this is exactly the answer that's on the DESE website. Question number 5. How does the Milton Public School receive the funds from the state? The money is, quote, offset on the state's cherry sheet in the annual Department of Revenue reimbursements to the cities and towns. Mr. Gillis could describe what a cherry sheet is, but essentially the state gives the town, not the school system, the town, a sheet that gives you a look at all the things they're reimbursing you for, all the revenues that you would get through Chapter 70, through other reimbursements, and then all your information is balanced out, and that number is determined to what the state will give you for local aid. I think that it would be a concern that money would then be, at the local level, we would have to try to figure out how we would be assured that money would be extracted above and beyond what our normal budget would be. I think that similar to how we collect our Chapter 70 money, for example, that there's really always a lot of discussion around the budget time, how much state aid is coming to the town, and how much of that also has to go to the town in general for other expenses, and that's a complicated conversation. So to me, it really wasn't certain that money would be given to the Milton Public Schools above and beyond what their budget would have been if they did not participate in the school choice program. All right, what is the enrollment trend for the Milton Public Schools? We asked ourselves, do we even have room if we wanted to do this? If the money was better and we thought it was going to be more lucrative, are we losing students? Do we have room? And as you can see on the graph above, we're gaining students each year. We are reaching almost 4,000 students, and we have enrollment at the elementary school. We have some grades that are close to 350 per grade. Our average grade size in the years that I've been here has been around 300 per grade. The middle school is starting to receive those 350 enrollment classes as we speak, and our high school has been growing each year as well. So we are netting over about 100 students a year. That means that we might have some students that might leave the town or might go to private school, but we're netting 100 students above and beyond that each year, and that's a lot of students. And that's, as you can see from the graph Mr. Gillis provided for me, that's an upswing that's still going up. That's not flattening out by any means. So that's a concern whether or not the district could actually sustain additional growth.
On top of that, I think is the mobility factor of people when they come into our district. So to your earlier point where you said if you establish optimum class size to be 22 and made available 5 seats in a particular grade, if the people flowing in, whenever they come in throughout the year, exceed that number, and that happens, I think, in many of our schools, and then you're moving them around to different districts, you could basically be raising class sizes in the grades that you had identified as having open seats, where maybe in a district that doesn't have as much fluctuation throughout the year, you might be able to more easily determine what available seats do you really have.
Correct. Does anybody have any questions so far before we go into some of the conclusions?
I have just a little follow-up to Mrs. Kelly's question. Do we have a sense, or do you maybe even know the exact number of how many students come in and out throughout the course of the year?
If just on ballpark numbers, if we're netting 100 students and we might lose, say, 50, I would say that we're introducing to the district about 150 students per year.
Okay.
That's students coming back from private school. That's students that are new to the district and new to the town. So in terms of transition, that's a lot of students, even though it's dispersed across 12 grades, because it is pretty, separated across the grades. That's a lot of students to introduce to the system or their school. If you notice, Mr. Jett does a great job at the middle school. They have a night in or a night out for every new parent in August to introduce them to the district. They also do one in the fall. I believe Dr. Drotter and his administrative team have had one up here at the high school. When you talk about quality and people participating, you want to get all families on board as fast as you can that are new to the district. We talk about parent engagement. It would be very hard to engage a parent who might be a bus and a train away or a longer car ride away. So in terms of family engagement, that was a discussion that we had with the group. Would parents be able to participate as well as we would expect them to or hope them to or want them to if their students weren't actually in the community?
And to Mr. Phelan's point, Mr. Phelan suggested that at the next meeting we do a report on our residency efforts. But another volatile number out there that we really never talk about, I wish that every student, every child who lived in Milton went to the Milton Public Schools, and that's my goal. And people who understand this next number say, be careful what you ask for. Because of the proximity of Milton, near so many private and parochial schools, we have 1,000 children, K through 12, who go to parochial and private schools. So sometimes when I say, I want every child to be in the Milton Public Schools, and I want us, and I know that we can match the education in any private or parochial school, people will say, be careful, Mary, because if they all came back, you would have another 1,000 children. So that's a number that's out there. We report. We correspond with the schools that those students attend to, and we make a report to the state.
I can do that one if you want me to. Okay.
So conclusions.
Okay. Unfortunately, the financial impact we felt would definitely be negative to the Milton schools, just considering that $5,000 per student. It's far less than what we spend on our students. The special education costs, although they are reimbursed, it was unclear exactly what you would be getting back, depending upon the services that the student required. And then just again, the revenue generated goes through the cherry sheet process, so it would be difficult to know exactly how much the schools would get back.
Most school districts that participate usually do so, we feel, for the need for additional revenue and have the capacity for new enrollment because they have a decreasing enrollment. The Milton Schools has been growing in their enrollment for the last 5 years. Our new buildings are all 6 schools being brand new. As we have seen by that graph, we have been growing each year from 3,600 roughly to about 4,000 as we speak. Elementary classrooms, just the amount of classrooms, we don't have any empty classrooms at the elementary level. So it's not like we have 2 or 3 elementary buildings that have empty classrooms that we could fill with a new class. And those class sizes in those full classrooms are substantial, and some of which at the later grades of elementary, and in some of our classes at the middle school, and in some of our core classes here at the high school are full. So we have healthy class sizes. With that being said, the recommendation of the group that served on the school choice committee is that the Milton Public Schools does not participate in school choice. It is not this committee's decision. It is the recommendation of the committee that got the charge to present the information. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Hubian.
I'd like to first thank you and your committee for doing such a great job. My contention all along has been that there's a certain amount of fixed costs in educating a child, and that fixed cost plus the $5,000 would more than adequately make up for any issues that might arise from educating that child. What I didn't really drill down deeper into, and what you guys have done, is the many things that go along with accepting children into your school district from out of district. It was really an eye-opener, and I'd like to thank you for doing the homework and presenting this in a very clear and concise manner. And if I were to be here next month, I would be voting against school choice, but it certainly was a very comprehensive report, and I think it gives people a lot of information, and certainly clarifies a lot of issues that I had. So thank you very much for all your work.
And to Mr. Hubian's point, bringing the topic up and to keep raising our consciousness about it, it is an article from every district, and more people are becoming interested in all of the facets and the concept of school choice. So it is a very timely, it's very easy in June just to vote no. But to your repeated requests for us to keep it on the front burner, I appreciate it. And it is educational for all of us. I took a new interest in those articles about the local districts.
And also to that point, Mr. Hubian, we just have to vote it by a certain date. So I don't see why we can't take a vote on this at our next school committee meeting when you will still be here. And it seems most appropriate to include you in that vote.
Well, thank you.
We'll put that on the agenda for next. Any other comments or questions?
Great job.
I'd like
Great
to thank
job.
Meg Kasuba for coming out on a busy March night, and I appreciate her patience in the work of the committee, and I appreciate the support that Matt Gillis gave me with the statistics and some of the information that he was aware of in his former districts, and the superintendent as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for all that work. It's greatly
Outstanding.
appreciated. And I do just also want to say that I think that this, it's something that the community needs to know, and it's a great resource to have up on our website, so thank you.
Thank you.
I want to bring to the attention of the committee and the public, we've been following the implementation, the passing of the bullying and the cyberbullying law, and we've brought Alan Cron in our committee and put it in front of you all through the school year, where we had to submit a policy plan to the state, and in a local newspaper, Milton was listed as one of the communities that didn't meet all the regulations. And I was never notified that that was an issue. There were references that other communities were notified, but we work with DESC. and Alan Cron and John Phelan and I spoke with an associate commissioner, and within an hour, we had taken care of the verbiage that was the issue for the state. We sent the plan to our attorney to review, and within 2 days, I had an email that I should have put in your packets tonight that our plan did meet all the expectations. And so for the public, I put the edited plan in your packets. The edited plan is up on the web, and Alan Cron was here tonight. I'll bring him into another meeting to give you the information. Just was it Friday or Monday? We had 5 staff members who went to Harvard on a national bullying session, and were heavily involved. And to every parent, guardian, and community member, this is an issue that's important to us. You heard James Jett tonight, and Ms. Sheridan was very appropriate as an educator to understand, especially at the middle school. Well, it's important at the elementary school to form a child, and at the middle school to look at that whole child, educated by John Phelan and George Moran before him about the needs of children that age. And then at the high school, before we send out citizens, this anti-bullying and working to educate children is on the forefront of our list of priorities. So we take it seriously, and we want to assure the community that we're paying attention to every aspect of that law in every classroom for every child in Milton Public Schools. In my report, very briefly, you've been an outstanding audience tonight. I want to remind the public that you remember we've brought all the fundraising to support clubs, activities, and athletics at Milton High back to 3 events. We had the golf and tennis tournament, we had the successful walkathon, and tomorrow night it's testimony to the staff of the Milton Public Schools. We have the staff faculty talent show at Milton High School. And I went to a 4-hour dress rehearsal. The talent show is not that long, but this afternoon, and it might as well be called the Milton High School Pierce. And it just shows about morale and building school culture. Those teachers and staff members are out every night practicing, putting themselves out there for 2 audiences, 756 seats in the auditorium. You can do the math. 2 nights. I begged them to do it one night, double the cost, just do it one night. 2 nights to put themselves out there, and all the funds go for clubs, activities, and athletics to have a full array of programs at Milton High School. So I want to applaud those faculty and staff members. You have to recognize Dr. Noreen Diamond Burdett, and we have a little secret weapon, Steve Collier. He's a taskmaster. And so you can, tickets are $10 and they can be bought at the door. And you were going to ask about what Mr. Phelan's doing?
I was going to ask what you were doing.
Well, they've added a new act this year, Dancing with the Stars. Is that what it's called?
That's what it's called.
Dancing with the Stars. So,
You are the star.
no, Mr. Phelan has a partner. Brian Board has a partner. Alan Cron and his partner. And Dr. Drotter, James Jett has a partner, and Dr. Drotter and I are partners. But I want to share one thing with everybody. Today, during the dress rehearsal, I think the level of difficulty that John Drotter and I have taken on for our dance is much more difficult than the other 4 or 5 couples that I witnessed. Not to take anything away from your dance, John, but we've had to practice, and but we have stiff competition. But there's some real talent that's out there, isn't there, John? I wouldn't call us.
It's not sitting at this
I know, it's not sitting at this table, right. So real talent, and you have to applaud them, and the children, the students are really excited. Mr. McGillis was absent or at a conference that day. That's the only reason he's not up and dancing. But here's a little secret. If the camera's on, Mr. Gillis knows how to dance, and he gave us some dance lessons. So he's erupting next year. Yeah. The Backyard Bash, I think the MFE celebration chairs spoke eloquently. Again, tickets are still available. If anyone wasn't watching Citizens Speak, unbelievable enthusiasm this Saturday night, April 2nd, and tickets are still available. James Jett spoke tonight. Go to your individual school's website to follow your child's MCAS testing calendar. If you have any questions, you can call your school's principal, communicate with the teacher, or call my office. I want to announce tonight a very exciting, I put out an email blast today, but we've appointed a new director of pupil personnel. I brought Karen Clasby's resume tonight for everybody in the audience. We emailed to the school committee. Karen Clasby is in her doctoral program in educational leadership in urban schools at the University of Massachusetts, Boston. She earned her master's in counseling psychology at Lesley College, her BS in special education from Boston University. She has currently, since 2007, been the director of student services in the Randolph Public Schools and was a member of the team that did the turnaround in Randolph, one of our neighbors that has done a terrific, implemented a terrific plan addressing student achievement. Ms. Clasby also has been an adjunct professor at University of Mass. She has some interesting experience in alternative schools in the Weymouth Public Schools. She worked in the Arlington Public Schools. She spent a lot of time in our interview sessions, coming back, working with the PAC on another session of further questions. This position is integral to the success of the children in all the children in the Milton Public Schools and the staff, and it's a very, very important position. You remember, for the school committee, we went out twice last year. I would tell you that I got an email from a superintendent on our listserv that said, does anyone know a retired director of pupil personnel? The pool is not out there for directors of pupil personnel. It's a very, very demanding position, and Margaret Gibbons, the head of our union, spent time alone with Ms. Clasby, and so I want to, on behalf of the Milton Public Schools, welcome Karen Clasby. She'll be joining us as of July 1st. She's already written to Mr. Phelan and me today, wanting to use her days that she can leave the Randolph Public Schools and come and visit all of our programs before the end of the school year. A wonderful sign, and I will be bringing Janet Sheehan and Karen Clasby to this table so that you connect the names with the faces and meet them and greet them to be the first individuals after the screening committees. So that's really good news for the Milton Public Schools. I couldn't be happier. And that's it for my report tonight.
Great. Well, my report's going to be brief, too, and I just want to address something Ms. Gormley just talked about, and that's the superintendent's email blast. I don't know how many school districts do this, Ms. Gormley, but I just want to say I think that this is a huge value to all parents in the Milton Public Schools and the community as a whole. That document that you send out via email is so thorough and so informative. This week you highlighted, or in the second one this week, just that came out today, you highlighted the slam dunk, math is a slam dunk, that Mr. Jett spoke to so eloquently earlier. And you also talked about the bullying and all of the programming that we've done this year in terms of supporting parents and families and students around the bullying and cyberbullying issues. And I just want to say I think that that's a real value to the community as a whole, and a service that you provide to each one of us, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
So, does anyone have anything else to add tonight? Do we have any agenda items for our next meeting, in addition to taking the school choice vote? Well,
if I might, I'm sorry. Ms. Kelly had requested, I've brought tonight, and we'll report out at the next meeting, and you might have questions. We only got this information finished this morning. This is, as of today, and when did I keep one? As of today, our next year kindergarten and first grade projected numbers. Now, this is very important, if you don't mind.
No,
Sheridan.
please.
This message is from Sean Walsh. We have 275 students who are pre-registered for next year's kindergarten. Approximately 200 of those families have completed their registration packets. 75 are still being reviewed. And to Mr. Phelan's point, we're going to do a presentation with our registrar at the next meeting. The deadline on the web, fully publicized for kindergarten registrations, is April 29th. Those students who have completed the registration packet and go through the screening will be given a school assignment in May of this year. So that's an important timeline. We must receive calls every single day about this issue. And on the second page, I've outlined, as of today, we've placed every first grader new to the district, and they're being telephoned as to the school that they're going to. And so anyone who registers now for first grade, we're going to identify a date. Mr. Phelan?
The Thursday prior to the long weekend in May.
So the end of May. So all the families who are registering, we're going to monthly establish a date that we'll sit down, look at all of the addresses, look at all the enrollment numbers, and make the assignments. And so this is done in an orderly manner to equalize class size across the district. But I would ask the committee to take a look at this handout, and I'll address it at the meeting next week. And you also, your monthly update, this is on the web. Sean Walsh changes it regularly. Our current enrollment as of today.
Ms. Gormley, could I just ask a question? Is 275 students pre-registered, is that an average? Is that generally, or is that higher or lower than normal, or?
Mr. Phelan, speak to that.
It's, for this point in the year, it's about average. The last, Mr. Gillis will do an enrollment projection for us at the beginning of every year. In the last year, he was pretty close to being exact with his groups, the group that he uses. We project about 310, so we know that there's going to be more students or families that will coming in between now and then. We try to do everybody, to inform everybody in January, February, to set a general deadline of April so we can check and recheck everybody's information, health, records, residency information. All that is done prior to us screening the child. If anybody is seeking to get financial assistance for kindergarten, those paper and documents are reviewed, etc. So in April, all families that have registered their child will know exactly what their school is, what their payment is, if they chose to get support, and where they'll be going in September. And so we set that deadline for everybody who actually takes care of their business in a timely manner. Then we set another deadline for those folks who will come in after that, and we don't guarantee them anything because we then want to balance our class size accordingly across the district, and we give them another time period.
That's great. Mrs. Kelly?
First of all, I wanted to thank you for this information, but also just wanted to say, I don't know that we necessarily need to be handed these out, although if everybody wants to, that's great. As long as it's posted on the website and people have access to the information, I think that was all that was intended in terms of my request.
Thank you. Updated on a
Yeah.
monthly basis. So I'm going to take a moment and put John on the spot because John's a senior. He's our student rep who faithfully comes, and it's that time of year when you're making decisions about college. Have you made a decision yet?
I haven't made any decisions yet. I got my last decision today, which was Brown. I was rejected, but wasn't really surprised by that. I've gotten to a lot of great schools, though, and it's exciting.
Do you want to share some of those great schools?
Sure. I got into George Washington, RPI, RIT, WPI, Northeastern, and I got waitlisted at BU.
That's exciting. Congratulations. Well, you're a leader, and you're very faithful to us coming to all of our meetings and supporting us, and we appreciate it, and congratulations. We look forward to hearing the next decision.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
Thank you.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session, not for the purpose, for the purpose of pending litigation and contract negotiation, not to return to public session, but to adjourn directly from executive session.
So moved.
Second? This will be done by a roll call vote. Mrs. Kelly?
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Pavlicek?
Yes.
Mr. Culhane, Mr. Hubian?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Have a great night.